Hey everyone, JC here. Welcome back to Breaking Chains and Building Dreams. Today's episode is a real eye opener as we dive into the gritty, dirty, real reality of growing up in Chicago's gang culture. Strap in because we're about to embark on a journey through the mean streets where survival meant being part of something bigger or something dangerous. Let's peel back the layers and explore the raw truth behind gang affiliation in the Windy City. Suantala Suburban, because we about to take a ride. What's up, y'all? JC here with another episode. As a kid navigating through the dangerous streets of Chicago, I found myself drawn into I guess you could say, into the gang culture. From starting with the guest boys to hanging out with the KGBs to being part of the 2-6 on Ridgeway, an insane dude to finally, becoming a sane disciple for 59, and later becoming a Land King and a Rough Rider. These were more than just names. They were like tribes, each with its own set of rules, codes, and consequences. From seeking a sense of belonging to seeking protection, I found myself bouncing from one gang to another, searching for something I couldn't quite grasp. And it was something inside me. Because here's the harsh reality with everything. Gang affiliated. Everything is gang affiliated in Chicago. From the corner store to the local park, even the schoolyard wasn't safe from the influence of gang culture. It's a constant game of survival where one wrong move could mean the difference between life and death. If you grew up in Chicago, you know what I mean. As a kid, navigating these dangerous waters was a task. You had to be street smart. You're running for your life. You're getting chased, shot at. You're getting hunted. And sometimes you're the hunter too. So it turns into a game. But it also is a harsh lesson in resilience, adaptability, and the harsh reality of the streets. I share my stories, like I said, not to brag, but just to give you an inside look of how our kids are growing up in the cities, in these gang-infested cities. When I was in 6th grade, I didn't know that there were certain colors that I couldn't wear. I was fresh here from Mexico. There was gangs in Mexico. I was already hanging out with gang members in Mexico, but they didn't have colors or nothing. They were just barrios. They were just neighborhoods, Chiquilladas, El Infiernito. These were all little neighborhoods in the area of Mexico where I was from, Moroleon, Guanajuato. So when I got here to Chicago, my dad took me to the swap meet, and little did I know that I picked up some sweatpants that said Guess on there, and they were blue and yellow. Well, when I went to school the next day, I was approached by Armando and Mikey, that later on became, very close friends of mine, asking me if I was a guest boy. And I was like, a guest boy? Like, what's funny is that I was just trying to mimic how everybody else was dressing. Little did I know that I was already dressing like a gang member. Well, the more I started hanging out with Armando and Mikey, the more I got closer into the gang life and started making more friends. I met Peter. He was an older Ambro. I think he's still around, from 63rd. I started experiencing, acts of violence. I started seeing them more often because I was around it more often. And, I was in 6th grade. I remember one time the Land Kings came up to Tonti High School on 59. It's on 59 in Holman. And they went up there and they shot this Ambro that used to go to the school. Just in broad daylight, like showed up with the car. They were wearing like trench coats. One of them was a white boy, one was a Mexican. But I remember everything in detail because I remember everything happening. And I remember me walking and seeing them pull up in an alley right before 59 and jumping out. And I already knew what time it was. Like I already knew something was going down. So people don't realize that when you grow up in these neighborhoods, it's almost like if you're not part of them, you're against them. And then if you're not with them and the other groups mess with you, you have nobody to have your back. And it's a dangerous double-edged sword. It's a dangerous reality. But you know, that year I became part of the Guest Boys from 57th. Lupe was one of the big chiefs, and you know, the Guest Boys started off as a party crew in Chicago. It was like a big thing in my days where there's a lot of party crews. There is Guest Boys, the Naughty Boys, the Adidas Boys, the Nike Boys, Orange Crush. There was a bunch of party crews all over the place because people would dance and battle it, and then start shooting. All right, so like Chicago's always been violent. Even with party crews, they've always got into fights with other party crews and started shooting. It's just like being in a gang is like first college years. Cartels it's when you're going into your master's degree and everything, but gangs is the start of party crews. Like a lot of the party crews end up turning into gangs because they start getting into fights with other people in other neighborhoods and stuff like that. So then they need to be part of something. They need to be part of the tribe, or they get extinguished. And a lot of these organizations in Chicago, what I tell people all the time, they were very well organized back in the day. That's why they stood the test of time. They had rules, they had prayers, they had just codes that were not broken. Drugs, even drug use was looked down upon. So like it was very well organized and controlled, and this is why they turned into powerhouses. Big organizations that kind of spread all over the world, because a lot of these gangs are in all over the world. And if you guys are familiar with that Gangland show, a lot of those gangs from Chicago, a lot of those interviews, a lot of those people are from our time when we grew up in the 90s, gangbanging and doing all that crazy stuff. But yeah, I ended up turning the Guest Boy. Right before I turned the Guest Boy, I was hanging around with the KGBs. The KGBs had just started, and I was friends with Claudia's brother, Beto. There were some other kids that I was friends with because I was friends with a lot of that people on that block on Spalding. Shorty lived there, Ernie lived there, Alfredo lived there. A lot of the kids that I grew up with and Tonti went to that school, so they all lived on that block. So I saw kind of the KGBs, take off. They blew up. They had some really good dancers. I remember I used to always hang around with Olga. She was a small person, and she was cool as hell. She was like my very first, like I guess you could say, crush. And it was because she always just kind of, I guess, saw me for me. I was always trying to fit in. So that's why, like, I was always from place to place. And remember, guys, what I said, like, they were always moving me around. I always got moved around from my uncles to my aunts to my grandfathers, back to my dad's, back to Mexico, back over here, because, like, they couldn't deal with me. They couldn't beat me enough. They couldn't. They thought that the more they beat me, the more I was gonna learn, and I became more like a little animal, and I just started, acting out more and running away, and there was just one time that I ran away. I just never came back. So, I get violated into the Guest Boys. They beat me up for about, I think it was like a minute and a half or something. I'm on the floor. They beat the crap out of me. I get up, and the funny part is that I'm in sixth grade, guys. I'm in sixth grade, so I'm about 11 years old. And I get up and I'm like, oh, that was nothing, because I was already used to getting beatings. How sad is that? So once I turned a Guest Boy, my association and my friendship with the KGBs kind of went down the drain, and I still say what's up to like Beto and them when I would see them, but they were really talking to me. Well, that year I had to move again, and I ended up in Cicero, and it was nothing but 2-6 over there. It was flooded with 2-6, and it was like right behind the police station. That was crazy to me. But I guess, it's like free security. But, it still went down. Like, that's where my friend Phil got killed. That's where he got shot in the neck, and he passed away. A 2-2 boy and a SD came by and did that. Riding a bicycle on pegs, and he died right there, right by the police station. So then I had to navigate that, being or hanging around with the 2-6. I ended up becoming really good friends with a guy named Chiquis from Ridgeway and Lemonhead Rick. And they always had my back, man. I that's one thing I loved about them too, man. They would go pick me up all the way to Cicero, where I lived at, by the Land Counts, by the Kings. It didn't matter. They would go and get me and take me all the way to Ridgeway. And I remember my first day there, right away, there was a shooting. The Kings came by in the car. We started fighting. They started shooting. I was hiding behind the mailbox. The bullets were hitting the mailbox. And I was like, not afraid. I was like, it was almost like I was in an action movie. I ended up going to Morton East for my freshman year, and I started hanging out more and more with the 2-6. I would go to lunch with them. I would walk home with them, because they would walk after school got released. They would walk that whole walk down all the way to Cicero. And we would get into fights here and there. I remember getting chased. I remember the really big fight that kicked off with the 2-6 and the Land Angels right at the beginning when they had started. It kicked off right at Morton East, and it kind of just spread all through the streets that day. But I had already seen so many shootings, so many drive-bys, people getting ran over, heads getting exploded, like people getting beat by, the club. You guys remember the famous club, so they couldn't steal your car? That was like the number one weapon for gang members in Chicago, the club. Always getting beat down with a club. I learned the art of violence, and I learned the art of being like a gangster, because being a gangster is more than just being violent. It's learning to walk, talk, get out of stuff. Sometimes you make it just by the skin on you. Like you run for your life sometimes, and you have to see things way ahead of time. And I believe all this stuff has helped me in my survival, and what I do and teach now to people, because it was tough. It was tough to grow up like that. And but I made it, and now I'm sharing my story so you can realize how great God is. So yeah, freshman year, I'm with the 2-6, and I'm hanging around with them, and going to K-Town, and Lemonhead Rick lived at Kaminsky, so we were always over there. And just in K-Town, man, K-Town is very different compared to Chi-Town. Chi-Town is where all the Land Kings are at, little village. K-Town is on the other side. Very different, even though they're close, just different neighborhoods, different styles, just different everything. You have Dark Side on the side of K-Town, and they're two big powerhouse gangs, the 2-6 and Land Kings. Sophomore year comes up, and I get moved again. Now I have to go back to live with my grandparents on 59th Street. So I get to 59th, and I'm running the streets. I've always was the one running the streets. This is in the time and years that I grew up with a lot of the guys that ended up being, SDs from 59th, the De La Vega brothers, Shorty, Ernie, Armando, Hyper, Murder, like they used to call me Brazier, Jessica, Sly, like that. It was the years that like 59 was born. But when I got there, I was hanging around, running the streets, and I would go a lot to like Sacramento, Western, on that area. It was a little bit more ghetto than on my side, home man, and that side. Like it was more ghetto on that side. So I would go hang out over there. And I ended up meeting this dude named Bam Bam that was an insane douche from the north side. And he saw that I was like a little kid on the streets running around like looking for trouble and just mischief, and he also seen that, like, I don't know, man, I don't know how to explain it. I don't want to make it like sound bad or like offend my friends, but I was always a leader, really never a follower. So I was always getting people into trouble as myself, but I was always on the look or on the prowl. I was always up to something because I didn't have nothing to go back to or live, or like I call it self-suicide. So I was always up to no good. And he convinced me that if I told all my friends to turn, insane douches, he would give me a gun, some drugs, and somehow I convinced the guys that we should do it because it was a big group of us. There was about 15 of us, and the Land Kings were in Crown Town. They had already established their neighborhood for years. So they were pretty deep. They were coming around a lot, messing with us. And there was a couple of us in the group that their cousins were, Saint disciples from 51st and Wood, or 47th. Some of the other older SDs, like the ones that were my chiefs, they were from Kaminsky, like the older generation of SDs. So I convinced everybody to turn insane douche, and everybody was mad because it was a bad decision. I'm not gonna lie. We did it for the gun, we did it for the drugs, and like that summer we ran around, trigger happy, trying to make a name for ourselves, shooting at people so people wouldn't mess with us. Well, we decided to get out, and I've told this story before. Bam Bam wasn't happy with me. So that day when I got violated out, because we all got violated out, Shorty, everybody got violated out. We got out the right way. He beat me with a 4x4 for my violation. It was a minute head to toe. And when he picked up that 4x4 and he started hitting me, like, even my guys, I could see it in their face. Like, they were mad, And that day, I walked away and I turned into an SD. I committed fully to being a Saint disciple from 59th and Spalding. And I was one of the founding members of 59th Street. From there, the chaos, the shootings, the beatings, the runnings, the chasings, the hunting escalated to a level that I can't even explain. It was shootings and getting caught and getting smacked on the hand and getting released again, and just doing it all over again. It was doing gang programs and just getting out and doing it all over again. And once you combine that with drugs and money and everything, this is why sometimes your own people try to kill you, or they do, because it has happened, or they rob you, or they set you up, or they do a lot of things, because that is the enemy's world. That's not God's world. Light does not exist in dark, because light outshines the dark. That's why the truth always comes out. That life that I lived for so many years was not the life that God had it planned for me. It was me making my own choices and not letting him lead my way. Many things have changed now. I am a firm believer that Jesus died on the cross for me, and that I am a new creation from my heart to my feet. I believe that I believe that God created everyone with a purpose. Our mission, wrong the strong, to go back to the dark streets, to the jails, to the rehab centers, mental institutes, those level 4 yards, those dark places where men and women feel like unreachable. I feel like God's telling me to stand up and go. Our youth, they need this message that they are loved by God and he wants to see them survive. In order to make this all happen, we need to disciple, mentor, study, show, walk, teach, not preach, to glorify God, and to demonstrate the love of Jesus to everyone we encounter, no matter what color, background, rich, poor, hood, or no hood. It don't matter. God loves everyone. It's the reasons why I do this. It's why I spend time sharing what he's doing in my life. Remember, guys, I am stepping away from the gym. I am going in full time into my ministry work. It's not my work, it's God's work. I just like to feel special. But as we wrap it up today's episode, I want to leave you with a powerful message. Gang affiliation may have been a part of my past, but it doesn't define who I am today. Throughout resilience, determination, and the support of mentors, I was able to break free from that cycle of violence, forge a new path for myself and my family. So if you're struggling to navigate the challenges of life, know that you're not alone. Reach out, seek support, and remember that God loves you and that change is possible. Until next time, stay strong, stay safe, keep chasing those dreams. This is JC. I want to thank each and every one of you for turning in and being a part of this incredible journey. Together we could break the chains and build dreams and make a positive impact in this world. So if you're ready to take this first step towards a healthier lifestyle, support our prison ministry, or contribute to our mission trip to Chicago, now is the time to take action. Visit the links in the description to sign up for our online training and mentoring programs. Donate to our GoFundMe campaigns and join the movement. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay strong, stay motivated, keep chasing them dreams. This is JC signing off. Peace, blessings, and God loves you. Chi-Town, stand up.